Most of us already know many of these verses, so you can kindly repeat along with me. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruh Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namah हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. So thank you once again Gaur Sharan Prabhu, all the wonderful devotees at the Bhakti Center, for kindly inviting me here to speak something on Srimad Bhagavatam. So today's verse is from the 8th canto, chapter number 21. These are verses 24 to 26. Since 24th and 25th do not have any purport, and 26th has a purport, so we'll read verses 24 and 25, and 26th we will read along with the purport. So let's begin, dear devotees. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 21st chapter, verse number 24. Etan vayam vijeshyamo yadi daivam prasidati tasmat kalam pratikshadvam yonorthatvaya kalpate. Synonyms: Etan, all these soldiers of the demigods. Vayam, we. Vijayashyamah, shall gain victory over them. Yadi, if. Daivam, providence. Prasidati, is in favor. Tasmat, therefore. Kalam, that favorable time. Pratikshadvam, wait until. Yaha, which. Naha, our. Arthatvaya, kalpate, should be considered in our favor. Translation by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Vijay. Translation: unless providence is in our favor, we shall not be able to gain victory. Therefore, we must wait for that favorable time when our defeating them will be possible. So, this is the 24th verse. This verse is describing the situation wherein all the asuras or the demons were conquered by the devatas or by the demigods, and after being conquered, they all are thinking that unless providence is in our favor, we shall not be able to gain victory. So Bali Maharaj is also, because of Bali Maharaj's charity, this has happened. So they are thinking that we must wait for that favorable time when our defeating them will be possible. So this is the 24th verse. There is no purport to this verse. We will move ahead to the next verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Patyurnigaditam Shrutva Daityadaanavayuthapa Rasam Nirvivishurajan Vishnu Parshad Tadita. So the translation for this verse is as follows. Shukadev Goswami continued, O king, in accordance with the order of their master, Bali Maharaj, all the chiefs of the demons and the Daityas entered the lower regions of the universe, to which they were driven by the soldiers of Vishnu. So, in this verse also it is being described that how the demons lost all the kingdom that they had gained, and then they were forcibly driven to the lower planetary systems by the Parshadas or associates of Vishnu. So all the associates of Vishnu, they drove these demons to the lower planetary system. The reason is that the demons wanted to attack Vamandev, because Vamandev had taken away all the surface of the universe, the entire universe, in charity by cheating Bali Maharaj. So since Vamandev had taken everything away from Bali Maharaj uh, by cheating, not by fair means, therefore the asuras or the demons, they tried to attack Vamandev, and in retaliation the agents of Vishnu or Vishnu Dutas, they drove away all these daityas or demons into the lower planetary systems. So this is 25th verse, no purport. So we'll move ahead. This is the 26th verse. अथ तार्क्षसुतो ज्ञात्वा विराट प्रभुचिकीर्षतं बबन्ध वारुणैः पाशैर्बलिं सूत्येह निकृतौ. So translation, thereafter on the day of Somapan, after the sacrifice was finished, Garuda, king of the birds, understanding the desire of his master, arrested Bali Maharaj with the ropes of Varuna. So in this verse it is being explained how, since Bali Maharaj has given away everything in charity and Vaman has covered only 2 steps in the universe, therefore Bali Maharaj has nothing to offer in the 3rd step. So a person who does not fulfill his promise, especially after giving a promise of dana or giving a promise of charity, that person, he becomes implicated in a sinful reaction. And therefore it seems that externally Garuda, he tied up Bali Maharaj because he understood the desire within his master, that is within the heart of Lord Hari. So this is explained in this verse. There is a purport by Srila Prabhupada to this verse. Srila Prabhupada says, Garuda, the constant companion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knows the confidential part of the Lord's desire. Bali Maharaj's tolerance and devotion were undoubtedly super excellent. Garuda arrested Bali Maharaj to show the entire universe the greatness of the king's tolerance. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying. The reason for Garuda arresting Bali Maharaj is to show everyone in the universe what is the greatness and what is the tolerance of Bali Maharaj. So this is the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always used to say, Sridhar Swami, Guru Kari Mani, Sridhar Anugata Karo Bhagavat Vyakhyan. He says, if you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, then accept the commentary of Srila Sridhar Swami. Accept him as your Guru and follow in the footsteps of Sridhar Swami. So whenever we try to explain a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, we should understand that the original explanations came from the writings of Srila Sridhar Swami. All other commentators, they have followed in his footsteps and have commented based upon reading his commentary. So we have to see what Srila Sridhar Swami says. Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary is in Sanskrit. This is the commentary of Srila Sridhar Swami. Srila Sridhar Swami says, Vishu Pakshishu Rajate iti Virat. So there was a term in the verse Virat. Virat, it was an adjective for Garuda. What does Virat mean? Virat is an adjective for Garuda. Vishu, the term V indicates birds, and Vishu means Pakshishu. Amongst all the birds, Rajate, he rules, he is the supreme. Therefore, Garuda is known as Virat. Virat. Vishu Rajate. So it is Virat. So he is the king of all birds. So why did Garuda arrest Bali Maharaj? So the verse itself says, Prabhos Chikirshitam Gyatva. So Prabhos, his master's Chikirshitam, desire Gyatva. Garuda had understood. So Garuda had understood the desire of his master. Then Sridhar Swami says, Ayam Artha. This is the meaning of the verse. What is the meaning of the verse? Asya Sarvasva Apaharena. By taking away everything from Bali Maharaj. Mameti Abhimanam Santyajya. And by removing his Abhiman, his false ego. What is his Abhiman? Mama iti. This all is mine. Everything in the universe is mine. Bali Maharaj was thinking. So his Abhimanam Santyajya, by making him give up this false ego. Idanim Deha Svikarena Ahankaram Api Tyajahitva. And by accepting this huge body as Vaman Dev, Ahankaram Api Tyajahitva, I will remove his false ego of being the greatest in the universe. Param Anugraham Kartum Ichhati. The Supreme Lord wants to bestow the highest favor upon Bali Maharaj. What is the highest favor that the Supreme Lord wants to bestow? Garuda understood. So the highest favor, Sridhar Swami writes, is Na cha anena tulyo anyaha kopi satya sandho. There is nobody else in the universe comparable to Bali Maharaj when it comes to keeping his promise. So there is nobody, na cha anena tulya, nobody comparable to him. Kopi satya sandha. Satya sandha means satya pratigya, whose vows are always true. There is nobody more true to his vow than Bali Maharaj. Dhiro, and there's nobody more sober than Bali Maharaj. Va asti iti. So this is nobody more sober than Bali Maharaj, nobody more true to his vow than Bali Maharaj. Tad yashah prakhyapanartham. And in order to increase his fame, kinchit patayitum api ichhati. In order to increase his fame, the Supreme Lord also wants to pull him down a little, to put him into difficulties a little bit. Iti prabhor abhiprayam gyatva. So understanding this desire of the Lord, tam babandha iti. Garuda tied him up. So this is what Sridhar Swami says. And on what day did Garuda tie him up? So the verse says, Sutye ahani soma abhishavadine, the day on which the soma was to be extracted. The somaras, Vedic sacrifice means there is soma involved. So the day on which soma was to be extracted, that was the day on which Bali Maharaj was bound up by Garuda. So this is the day on which Bali Maharaj will face a very difficult situation, but this difficult situation will make him renowned throughout the universe for all times to come. So this was the intention of Lord Krishna. Therefore, the slight difficulty which Bali Maharaj was put into, I'm saying that the difficulty is slight because in comparison to what he will gain in the future, the difficulty accepted by him was certainly lesser. So this is the explanation by Srila Sridhar Swami. Now, we have to understand one thing, that many a times this incident of Bali Maharaj is recollected by many individuals in order to make the point that one should not be very charitable. Especially the demons, the asuras, who were relatives of Bali Maharaj, were extremely unhappy with such a leader. Extremely unhappy with him. Why? Because Because of having Bali Maharaj as a leader, they lost everything. Because of the charitable nature of Bali Maharaj, they lost everything that they had gained. And when something is lost, the entire responsibility of the loss falls on the leader. So this is something it is said, success has many fathers and failure has none. So at this point of time, the asuras or the demons have failed. So therefore, the only person to which they can pinpoint the entire blame of the failure is Maharaj Bali. And Maharaj Bali is going to take the entire responsibility of failure. And moreover, he's being humiliated by Garuda because he's tying him up, and the Lord is, he's testing Bali Maharaj severely here. So this is what is happening here. Therefore, sometimes, it is said that excess of everything should be avoided. We can see here Garuda has tied up Bali Maharaj, and there is a verse in connection to this which is quoted amongst learned people. This verse is as follows: Atidanaad balirbadho yatimanat suyodhanah vinashto ravano laulyad ati sarvatra varjayet. He said Atidanad balirbadho. So Atidanad, by giving too much charity, Balihi Baddho, Bali became bound up, like it is shown in the painting here. So Bali faced humiliation because of excessive charity. He Atimanat Suyodhana. Suyodhana is another name of Duryodhana. So Atimanat, because of excessive pride, Duryodhana lost his life. Vinashto Ravano Laulyat. And because of Laulyat, because of excessive greed and lust, Vinashto Ravano, Ravan lost everything, including his life. Therefore, Ati Sarvatra Varjayet. Therefore, excess of anything should be avoided. So this is the wisdom imparted in a verse. This verse is from a collection of Sanskrit wisdom quotes known as Subhashit Ratna Bhandagaram. So Subhashit Ratna Bhandagaram, it says, Ati Danad Balir Badho Yati Manat Suyodhana Vinashto Ravano Laulyad Ati Sarvatra Varjaya. So Bali ended up being bound due to excess charity. Duryodhan got killed due to excess pride. Ravan died due to excess greed. Therefore, excess of everything should be avoided. So this is something which uh, we all have practical experience of. If we have excess of anything, it turns against us. If there are some sweets on a Sunday feast and we have excess of sweets, so although it is very pleasing in the immediate run, it may cause a stomach disorder on the next day. Therefore, avoid excess of everything. So this verse may be correct, and it's not that Bali Maharaj did not know this principle, but still individuals such as Bali Maharaj have always engaged in dan. So dan is translated as charity, and the general English translation of dan is charity, giving charity. But we will see there is also some subtle difference between the term dan and the English term charity, and we will see what is the difference. And today we will try to focus upon the importance of dan, because although Bali Maharaj is in a humiliating situation because of his dan, because of his charity, but still in Vedic literature, dan is glorified a lot. So we will try to understand why dan has been glorified so much. So first and foremost, we have to see what are the similarities between dan and charity and what are the differences between dan and charity. So sometimes when we translate from one language to another, many details are either added or lost. Therefore, there is an English phrase, much is lost in translation. So the best translation for dan is charity. And charity, if we see various English dictionaries, what is charity? So charity as a verb is the voluntary act of giving to those who are in need. This is what charity refers to. So in the English dictionary, conception of charity is somebody is in need and we voluntarily give them something that they need, and that activity, that verb is known as charity. So this is the dictionary meaning of charity, and there is not uh, there is nothing much attached besides this to the term charity. So charity is basically a voluntary act of giving to a needy person. Now dan has an entire concept attached around it. There is an entire philosophy attached around dan. So the philosophy attached around dan is that if a person gives something to another person who is deserving or who is needy, then the person who is giving earns some merit or earns some dharma. He accumulates some piety. So this is the subtle difference between charity and dan, because charity, as in the English term, it does not have this concept of earning dharma or earning some religiosity, earning some pious merit due to the charity. Whereas dan has the concept of earning piety by engaging in that act of giving. Therefore, even in the Vedas, dan is glorified a lot. In the Rig Veda, it is said, Dakshinavanto amritam bhajante, Dakshinavantah pratiranta ayu. So it is said in the Rig Veda, Dakshinavanto amritam bhajante, that those who are Dakshinavanta, those who give dan, they relish immortality. They become immortal. Now somebody may say, how do they become immortal? See, just like Bali Maharaj has become immortal, because Bali Maharaj's fame is immortal, and Bali Maharaj has also become very long lived. So Dakshinavanto mritam bhajante, and Dakshinavantah pratirant ayuh. So those who engage in dan, pratirant ayuh, their duration of life is excessive, very long. So the Rig Veda, directly the Vedas are glorifying dan. So this concept of piety centered around the act of giving is what is dan. And charity may not always convey the same sense. So dan has that entire philosophy attached around it, wherein if we are giving something, it's not that we are doing a favor upon someone. Sometimes we say we are giving something in charity, and sometimes the implication is that we are doing a favor upon the person to whom we are giving. So dan is not like that. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Datavyam iti yad danam diyate anupakarine. So, diyate anupakarine. Dan is given without a sense of bestowing favor upon others. Whereas charity may be given or may not be given also, but many times charity is given with the sense of bestowing a favor upon others. Now, a person who gives dan, they understand that when I am giving something to someone, I am not in a loss, because I am earning some merit out of it, and this merit will, it will be accrued in my karma, and I will be able to enjoy the fruits of that merit. So basically, dan is done primarily for the purpose of accumulating piety or dharma. This is the concept of dan. In other words, if I am giving something to a deserving person, So I am giving ultimately to myself. Please try to understand this, dear devotees. If I am giving dan to a deserving or a needy person, so then I am ultimately giving that dan to myself, because it is ultimately going to come back to me. Srila Prabhupada often used to say that a person gives some charity, so multiple times that amount will be earned by him automatically without making any efforts in their subsequent lives. So this is the concept of dan. If we are giving it to someone who is a deserving person, we are giving it with the sense that I am going to earn it back without any effort in my subsequent lives. So this is the concept of dan. Therefore, there is immense glorification of dan, immense glorification of such acts of giving. So it is said in that same literature, Subhashit Ratna Bhandakaram, very nice set of verses. It says, Yaddadasi vishishtebhyo yachashnasi dine dine tatte vittamaham manye sheshamanyasya rakshasi. So one time a poet went to the court of a king, and the king was a miserly person. So the poet said to the king, Yad dadasi vishishtebhyo, whatever charity you are giving to people who are specifically deserving that charity, so that wealth is in the first category. Second category, Yacha Ashnasi Dine Dine. The second is that category of wealth which you are enjoying every day. So that wealth which you are giving in charity and that wealth which you are enjoying every day, tatte vittam aham manye, that is your real wealth, O king. That is your real wealth. I think that is your real wealth. It is my firm opinion that this is your real wealth. Shesham anyasya rakshasi. Everything else is somebody else's wealth which you are protecting, merely protecting. Because true wealth is only that which either we enjoy in this life or either we give as dan. Because when we give it as dan, it is going to come back to us. So these are the only two types of wealth which actually belong to us. Everything else which we neither enjoy nor give in charity is actually going to be enjoyed by somebody else. Therefore it says shesham anyasya rakshasi. All other wealth which you neither enjoyed nor gave away as dan is somebody else's wealth which you are merely protecting. So this was a message to the miserly king, that you should definitely engage in dan or giving to worthy people. So this is the translation. Whatever you gave as dan to people worthy of charity and whatever you consume yourself, these two are your actual wealth. Every other wealth is being maintained by you for somebody else. In fact, it is said in the same literature, there is a very nice verse that the most charitable person in the universe is the miser. It's a very surprising verse. It says the most charitable person in the universe is actually the miser. Why is the miser the most charitable person? It says because he gives away all his wealth even without touching it with his own hands. If he would have voluntarily given that wealth by touching it with his own hands, if he would have given, he would have earned it in his next life. But he did not even want that piety. So when he dies, automatically it will be taken by others. So he could neither enjoy it nor did he give it as dana. Therefore, he is the most charitable person because he neither enjoyed the wealth nor did he enjoy the piety. So it's a sarcastic remark. The most charitable person in the universe is the miser because he gives away all his wealth even without touching it with his own hands. So we should understand this fact that dan is an investment in future. Some people are naturally born very rich, in rich families. Some people are born in extremely poor families. One of the major reasons for this discrimination in the universe is not because God discriminates, it is because Maya discriminates between all living entities based on their tendency of dan. So somebody who has had a very good tendency for dan, or somebody who is who's a very good devotee. So these two categories of people are eligible for being born in a wealthy family. For a devotee or for a yogi, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe. Either they are born in a very pure family, pure hearted family of devotees, or they are born in a very wealthy family, so that, like Raghunath Das Goswami, so that they don't have to take care of their maintenance day to day, hand to mouth existence is not a problem for them. So this is something which we all should understand, that the concept of dan in Vedic literature is more of an investment into the future. So next is that we are also encouraged to give dan at all points of time in life. Whether, because some people say I am very poor, so I cannot give, and so yeah, Shastra says, all the previous great souls, they say that all points of time one should give dan, even if we have very little. There is an example of King Rantidev in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Rantidev, he was fasting for so many days, and after fasting, he was planning to end his fast by taking little bit of food. But as soon as he began doing that, there were so many people who came for accepting charity from him. So there was, there was a chandal, a dog eater, and there were many animals who came. So Rantidev, he gave whatever little bit he had as dan to those deserving people. And as a result, Rantidev is considered to be one of the most charitable people in the universe. And his name is glorified in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is something we should understand. Even if we are not very wealthy, we should give a little portion of what we have to deserving individuals. अनुकूले विधौ देयं यतः पूरयिता हरि प्रतिकूले विधौ देयं यतः सर्वं हरिष्यति. So anukule vidhau deyam. So even when anukule, when situation is very favorable in life, vidhau deyam, still it is enjoined that one should give dan. Why? Yatah, because purayita hari, because Hari, Lord Krishna, is the one who has provided everything to us. Understanding this fact, since that Lord has provided everything to us, we should give charity in a favorable situation. Pratikule vidhau deyam. And when the situation is not so favorable, still it is enjoined that one should give. Why? Yatah sarvam harishyati. Because his name is Hari. Harishyati iti Hari. One who snatches away everything is Hari. So it is he who has snatched everything away. And therefore, before he snatches away everything, you voluntarily give it. So therefore, whether situation is favorable or situation is unfavorable, we should always try to give some dan at all points of time according to our capacity. We may not be able to give as much dan as Bali Maharaj, but according to our capacity, we should always engage in the practice of dan. This is the translation. Give dan in favorable situations, for it is Lord Hari who provides us everything. And give dan in unfavorable situations, for it is the same Hari who takes everything away. So it's a very nice verse which tells us that charity should be a part of everyone's life, and being poor should not be an excuse for being miserly. So this is something which we all should understand. Now somebody may say, what is the opinion of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas about the concept of giving dan? And because it seems to us like it is a very mundane thing. To give charity is a very mundane thing. And the best charity that we can give is Krishna consciousness. So why give money? Why give food? Why give water if we can give Krishna consciousness to others? So we should understand that Krishna consciousness is certainly a very good dan. To give the dan or to give somebody knowledge of Krishna Bhakti is certainly the best type of dan that one can give. At the same time, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas have said that all other types of dana, all other valid types of giving in charity is also very important, especially for the householders. So there is a literature written by, composed by Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami. It is known as Satkriya Sar Deepika. Satkriya Sar Deepika, Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, he cites a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. So this verse is as follows: Yagye tapasi dane cha sthiti saditi chocyate karma chaiva tadarthiyam sadityeva vidhiyate. Now Srila Prabhupada translates this as follows: all works of sacrifice. See, in the original verse it is yagye, all works of sacrifice. So in our age, Kali Yuga, sacrifice means, or yagya means Sankirtan yagya. Primarily it means Sankirtan yagya. So all works of Sankirtan yagya. Then tapasi, all works of penance. Dane, charity. Cha means and, etc. Sthiti is sad iti chochete, which true to the absolute nature. Karma chaiva tadarthiyam, which are performed to please the Supreme Personality. Sad ityeva vidhiyate, they are known as sad, or they are known as the absolute truth, or they are denoting the absolute truth, O son of Pritha. So this is the verse cited by Srila Gopal Bhatt Goswami in his Satkriya Sar Deepika. Now I highlighted the term dane. Now Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami takes the term dane and the subsequent term cha, and he is commenting upon that. So we will see the direct words of Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, what he has written in his Satkriya Sar Deepika. Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami says, Dane cha bhakti shraddhaya. He says dan means out of bhakti shraddha, out of faith in devotional service. What should be done? Kaya vak manobhir. Through one's body, through one's words, through one's mind, one should do something. What should one do? Yatha shakti. According to one's capacity. Shriman Mahabhagavata Karshanadi Sakala Seva Karmani. One should try to serve a Mahabhagavata devotee of the Lord, a great devotee of the Lord. This is the best dan, to serve a great devotee of the Lord in all possible ways, through one's body, mind, words, and any other possible way, through one's wealth. Any way one should serve a Mahabhagavata devotee in all ways. Then he says chakarat. There is also cha after dane. So chakarat, what does the cha mean? Brahmanadi sarva jivanu kampaya. So having compassion for all living entities, beginning with the Brahmana, down to the dog eater. So beginning from the Brahmana, to all the living entities, even the ants, all the living entities, jiva anukampa, having a merciful nature towards them, compassionate nature towards them, yatha shakti, and according to one's capacity, anna jal adibhi, through giving anna, food grains, jala, by giving water, adhi, by giving wealth, etc. Santoshakarakattvena, Jiva santarpana karmi. One should engage in satisfying all living entities. So this is a very clear indication that one should engage in all types of charity, and this is known as dana. Dana cha. So dane cha indicates all types of charity. Primarily, dan to a Mahabhagavad devotee. Secondarily, dan to all living entities by providing them anything and everything which will satisfy their needs of life. So this is what is known as dana. This is the translation. The term dane in the verse indicates engagement in all forms of service through one's body, words and mind towards everyone related to Krishna, especially a Mahabhagavat. The term cha in the verse indicates engagement in all forms of satisfaction to all jivas, all living entities, beginning with the Brahmana. Such satisfaction must be done by giving grains, water, etc., according to one's capacity. Now, somebody may say, okay, we accept that this is also, sat, a bona fide activity, an activity related to the absolute. But, what about charitable projects like constructions of constructions of various projects such as bridges, construction of gardens, construction of hospitals, construction of so many other things? What about them? Are they mentioned somewhere by the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas? So yes, we will go back to the verse. The verse said in the third line, tadarthiyam. Tadarthiyam means, and everything related to that, everything related to dana, all other activities related to yagya, tapa and dana. So when we'll take the term tadarthiyam, and tadarthiyam, while explaining that, he says, tat tat tapodanadi nirvahartham kaya klesho angikrita. For giving charity, for yagya, one should accept all bodily discomfort. Krishi baladi avetana bhiksha seva divihi. And one should collect donations from farmers, merchants, donations which are, given voluntarily, not as a salary, not in exchange of something. Avetana bhiksha means not given as a salary, given voluntarily as a donation. Then tadartham dravyoparjanadikam, and for this reason one should collect wealth. So it is said it's a bona fide thing to collect some donations for dana. And what to do with that wealth? And it says kupa, vapi, khat, tadaga, dirghika rama, pushpodhyana, vividha vriksha ropana. So Cooper, constructing wells; Vapi, constructing water reservoirs; Khata, Tadaga, constructing lakes and ponds; Dirghika Rama, constructing gardens; Pushpodhyana, and flower gardens; Vividha Vriksha Ropana, planting various trees; Mandiradikam, and building various temples, etc. Cha Yat Tadartham, whatever is needed for that charity, tat tadiyam karma cha, understanding that this is, it is a karma, it is an activity related to the Lord. Sakalam vidvadbihi sadityeva nishchitam abhidhiyate. The learned souls understand all of this to be sad or bona fide activity. So simply by saying that we believe in giving only Krishna consciousness, so if we are devotees and if devotees are appointed to the government, so if the devotees are appointed to the government, then the government has to engage in charitable projects, and the sanction for such charitable projects is given in the words of the acharyas, that it is a part of dan, the big Vedic culture of dan. And all these activities, constructing wells, making artificial lakes, rivers, any other form of charitable construction, is under the purview of tadarthi dana. It is dan basically, and this should be engaged in by all the householders. For this we should also collect from the merchants, etc. It is said krishi baladi avetana bhiksha sevadivi. We should collect from the farmers, merchants, etc. So everything is very clearly mentioned here. It's a sanction for accepting dana and using it for constructing various charitable projects, because all our work is done as offering to the Lord. All of our work is done as an offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Sat, this is bona fide. So translation is, for the purpose of carrying out yajna, sacrifice, dana, etc., enduring all possible bodily troubles, as well as collecting donations from farmers, merchants, etc., construction of wells, reservoirs of water, ponds, lakes, gardens, as well as planting of trees, constructing temples, etc., is all termed by the learned souls as Sat. So this is in the Satkriya Sardipika. Very clearly it is mentioned that all these charitable activities are bona fide, they should be engaged in by the householders. Now, householders must engage in this, and if they do not engage in it, then it will be a very difficult situation for them. Because if I am a householder, I can give some charity, but instead of giving some charity, I withhold and under a false pretext, and I do not give charity, then the Srimad Bhagavatam very clearly declares that I am putting myself in a very dangerous situation. So, this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapil Muni says, 3rd canto, 29th chapter, verse number 26. आत्मनश्च परस्यापि यः करोत्यन्तरोदरं तस्य भिन्न दृशो मृत्युर्विदधे भयमुल्बणम्. So he says, Atmanascha parasyapi, between oneself and between others, yaha karoti antarodaram, one who has a differential mentality. And we will see what is the differential mentality. I will enjoy, but others should not enjoy. And I give it various, under various contexts, under various pretexts, I do not engage in charity. Tasya bhinna drishoho, for such a person of a differential outlook, mrityur vidadhe, I bestow death upon him, bhayam ulbanam, an extreme fear upon him, the Supreme Lord says. So this is the translation. For a person having a differential outlook and who differentiates between the belly of himself and of other living entities, I, the Supreme Lord, appear in the form of all devouring death and continue his existence in the fearsome material world. So in the translation, you will notice I have said differentiates between the belly of himself and other living entities. So belly means, this is by Srila Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami says Antarodara means he differentiates between the belly of his own self and of other living entities. And how does he differentiate that? Srila Jiva Goswami gives a commentary. He says, Athasva karma purvakam archanam kurvams bhutadayam vinana siddhyati. Somebody is engaging in devotional service. It will never be perfect without being merciful to other living entities. Iti yaha atmana iti. This is said in the current verse. Then Jiva Goswami says antarodaram, differentiating between my own belly and the belly of other living entity. He said udara bhedena bhedam karoti. He differentiates between his own stomach and the stomach of another living entity. Na tu mad adhisthanatvena atma samam pashyati. He does not see that I, the Supreme Lord, is present in his heart, and therefore he is also in one way same to me, same as me. Tatascha, moreover, such a person, although he is a devotee, Kshuditadikam api drishtva, even though he sees somebody is hungry, somebody is suffering, swa udaradikam eva kevalam sambibharti. He only feeds himself, Prashad. He only feeds himself but doesn't feed the other person who is suffering. Then Kapil Muni says, Jiva Goswami is saying, according to Kapil Muni, such a person has a differential outlook. Tasya bhinna drisho, for such a person with a differential outlook, mrityu rupo ham ulbanam bhayam samsaram, I bestow great fear in the form of repeated birth and death in this material world. So this is the commentary of Srila Jiva Goswami, that certainly we should engage in charity. So this is the translation. This verse specifies how devotional service does not attain perfection for a person who is devoid of bhuta daya, mercy to other living entities. The term antarodaram in the verse means that such a devotee differentiates between his own belly and the belly of others, not seeing me, the Supreme Lord, situated in everyone's heart, such a person does not consider others to be like himself. Moreover, even if such a person sees someone to be hungry, needy, etc., he ends up filling only his own belly. For such a person having a differential outlook, I appear in the form of death, mrityu, and generate deep fear. That is, I continue his existence in the material world. So, dear devotees, especially those who are householders, we should understand that we should engage in some form of dan. It is very much needed. Dan is of various types. One is to give, Vidya Dan, to give the charity of knowledge of Krishna Bhakti to others. This is a very nice form of charity. But let's not be satisfied with that. We should also engage in, as householders, when we see somebody who is distressed, we should immediately try to relieve their distress. It's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right there. At that point of time, we should not have an artificial difference of outlook that, just as I am a soul, he is a soul. So, we should see everyone on the platform of the soul. And in this way, in an artificial way, avoid giving charity. Although that person who is suffering is also a soul, and we are also a soul, and the Supreme Lord is situated in both of our hearts. But the Supreme Lord is witnessing that you are feeding only yourself. You are not feeding the person who is in need of such satisfaction. And therefore, he will label you as Bhinna Drisha, that a person who Bhinna Drik means a person who has a differential outlook. And then he will bestow that same fear of repeated birth and death, which he has said in this verse. So this is the strict injunction of Kapil Muni. So dear devotees, please, whenever possible, always engage in appropriate dan. When we are engaging in dan, we should understand we are giving to our own selves in our subsequent lives. So I would like to conclude with a very nice verse which mentions Bali Maharaj. Deyam bhohyadane dhanam sukritibhi no sanchitam sarvada Shri Karnasya balescha vikramapate radhyapi kirti sthita Aschariyam madhudana bhogarahitam nashtam chirat sanchitam Nirvedaditi panipadayugalam gharshantyaho makshika. So the verse says, Bho, Deyam, Bho, oh learned souls, Deyam, give. You should engage in giving. Giving to whom? Adhane, to people who are needy, people who are poor. What should we give? Dhanam, give your wealth. If possible, give your wealth. Why should I give? Sukriti bhi, because those who are very pious people in the past, no sanchitam sarvada, they have not always stacked their wealth forever. They have not always preserved their wealth forever. The great souls of the past have given it all away. Can you give me an example? Yes, the second line gives an example. Shri Karnasya, in the Mahabharata there is Karna. Karna was the most charitable person of Mahabharata. The most charitable person. When Indra came in front of Karna and asked, you should give your golden armor and your golden earrings as charity to me. Karna knew that if he gives them as charity, Arjuna will be able to kill him. But still, because Indra had come and asked for that charity, Karna gave away his only protection against Arjuna. Therefore, Karna is renowned as the most charitable person in the Mahabharata, although he took sides with the Kauravas. But he is renowned, even though he took sides with Duryodhan, he is renowned today for his charity. Shri Karnasya and Balescha and Bali Maharaj is renowned till date for his charity. Vikramapater, and there was a king in recent times, not recent times, but there was a king some time ago in this age of Kali. His name was Vikramaditya. He gave away everything in charity, and because of which the calendar, the Indian calendar, is known as Vikram Samvat. The entire calendar is named after him. So as long as the Indian calendar stays, Vikramaditya's name will be remembered. Vikramapatir adyapi kirti sthita, till today their kirti, their glory is still alive, of Karna, of Bali Maharaj, and of Raja Vikramaditya. Ascharyam, but you know what is more surprising than that? There is something more surprising than this. Madhu, honey, which is available even today. You know that honey, Dana Bhoga Rahitam, it is devoid of two things, Dana and Bhoga. The honeybees neither give it in charity and the honeybees neither enjoy it themselves. So Ascharyam, what is more surprising is that this madhu or this honey, which is dana bhoga rahitam, neither given in charity nor enjoyed by the bees which collect them, nashtam chirat sanchitam, it is forcibly taken away by somebody else. This wealth which they collect, their hard earned wealth of honey, their golden honey is nashtam chirat sanchitam, even though they have collected for a long time, somebody snatches it away. And does anybody remember the honeybees? Dear devotees, does anybody remember the honeybees after snatching away the honey? Nobody remembers. Why? Because it was never given in charity like Bali Maharaj. And then what happens to the bees? Nirvedad, out of depression, what do? Pani pada yukalam gharshantyaho makshika. They simply keep rubbing their hands and feet out of depression after all their honey is lost. Nothing comes to their, they cannot gain anything in their lives. After collecting so much honey with such hard work throughout their lives, somebody snatches it away. Why? Because they neither enjoyed it themselves nor did they give it in charity voluntarily. Therefore, nobody glorifies these honeybees, even though they worked so hard. This is the translation. O learned souls, wealth should be given to the needy, because even the great pious souls of the past did not keep any wealth with themselves. The glory of Karna, Bali Maharaj, and King Vikramaditya is still existing due to their dhan. Surprisingly, the honey which is neither enjoyed nor given voluntarily to others is quickly destroyed by snatching away. And the honeybees who strived so hard to collect it end up rubbing their hands and feet out of disgust. Therefore, dear devotees, whenever possible, please keep alive this great, glorious Vedic culture of dhan, of charity. Although dhan is roughly translated as charity, but there is an entire philosophy centered around dhan. We are giving to ourselves when we give dhan. Therefore, we should not give with a tendency of bestowing favor. We should always be very happy that by our giving dhan to others, we will receive much more in the form of Krishna's pleasure and in the form of wealth in subsequent lives. Although we do not wish to have subsequent lives, but unfortunately, if we have to see another life, we should always receive the good results of having engaged in dhan. So this, dear devotees, is something which we all should understand and which we all should try to practice. When we give dhan, we are giving to ourselves in the future, and we should be very grateful to the person who receives it from us, because he or she is that person who is allowing us to receive much more than what we gave. So thank you very much, dear devotees. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Hari Parshad Prabhu, for such an enlightening lecture on this topic. Without taking much time, I would like to invite all the devotees, if they would like to ask a question or comment, please unmute yourself. You should be able to.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you, Hari
Krishna.
Prasad Prabhu.
I'm hearing a most auspicious voice, and Jai Jagannath
Thank
Prabhu. Please give me the dhan of your sweet words, Prabhu. That's all I need.
You're embarrassing me. Your class is extremely beautiful. You've really helped to clear up a sort of, I would call it like an ISKCON orthodoxy in terms of how we normally think of charity, and just the Vedic principles of charity. My question is kind of a little practical. When you live in a large city with dense population, then you're always seeing extremely needy people everywhere. And it presents a sort of conundrum for someone who holds this sort of message in their heart. I first heard the verse of Kapila Dev. I first heard it from you about 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Right.
And I was holding that verse in my mind. I remember for about 2 or 3 weeks, I was like deeply holding that verse in my mind. And I was scared to walk outside because it presented such a conundrum to see so many needy people and, this sort of principle of giving dawn. So how does one reconcile themselves to such a standard of principle when you're living in like populations? It's not like a village where you might see only 1 or 2 people, but you're seeing like tons of people constantly. It's a little bit practical, but also philosophical.
Yes,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So, if I have understood your query correctly, how do we practically implement such a principle, especially in cities like New York, where we see so many people who are helpless in so many ways and they are in great need of charity. And whenever we see these people suffering on the streets, our hearts are definitely pained by seeing their suffering. And I can also imagine Srila Prabhupada, having a similar dilemma when Srila Prabhupada saw all the people when he was in New York. And when Srila Prabhupada saw all of them, Srila Prabhupada also had plans for distributing prasadam in large quantities. And I recall there is a conversation which Srila Prabhupada is having in America with a member of the government. And he's saying, the member of the parliament is saying, there are many hungry people on the street. And Srila Prabhupada said, why should anybody be hungry in Australia? All hungry people come here and eat. The government supports us. And all hungry people come here and eat. So this was the spirit of Srila Prabhupada. So at least your heart is in the correct place, that you have the desire to feed all of them. If you had the means to feed all of them, you would definitely have done that. This assurance Paramatma has within your heart. So at least that desire to feed them is there within your heart, and your heart is in the correct place. Other than that, practically what we can do is we can take a sankalpa. Sankalpa means we can take a small vow that since I am not able to satisfy everybody personally, I take a sankalpa that every day I will satisfy at least 3 or 4 people. This is called as sankalpa. So the Lord within our heart knows that this person is trying to satisfy according to his capacity. And when I quoted Satkriya Sar Deepika, it was said Yatha Shakti. Yatha Shakti means according to what is your Shakti, that you should try to do that. So you can take a sankalpa based on your Shakti. Once a week, I will satisfy 3 people, or every day I will satisfy 1 person. So this is called as Yatha Shakti Dan. And whatever is beyond our Shakti, beyond our capacity, so we can try to satisfy Lord Krishna for that and pray to Lord Krishna that Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam. By satisfying you, everybody else is satisfied. So Sri Sri Radha Murlidhar, I offer, as this bhoga is being offered to you, I pray to you that may all the living entities be satisfied by this acceptance of bhoga by you. So that is what we can do on a practical level. If possible, take a sankalpa of satisfying so many individuals, and for such duration of time. Sometimes we are not able to fulfill a sankalpa, so we should take a sankalpa very carefully, that how many days are we going to take that sankalpa. Sometimes we end up taking a lifelong sankalpa and we are not able to fulfill it. So carefully we should take a sankalpa according to our capacity. So that, I hope that satisfies your query.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Pashan, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. I had typed my question in the chat box, but I'll read it out now. My question was related to a slide that you had that talked about excess. And you had mentioned that even Bali Maharaj giving excess charity was not recommended. But from my understanding and even hearing from many Maharajas, that one should, yes, endeavor a lot for Krishna, in your context, or in framing it in this context, like excess chanting, excess seva, excess endeavor for Krishna. So anything related to bhakti and anything tied to the Supreme Lord, in that quote unquote excess, is actually recommended. It's, you can one say it's spiritual, not material. And ultimately, even Bali Maharaj in the end did not lose by giving this charity to the Supreme Lord. So can you please clarify? Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. So that's a very nice query, that sometimes in our classes we hear that there should be excess when it comes to bhakti. We should try to engage in these excesses when it comes to chanting, when it comes to seva, etc. So one should understand something, that the acharyas have said it very clearly, that there are certain limits on everything. For example, in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is very clearly said, when it comes to japa, it is very clearly said, na nyunam na chadhikam, that it said na nyunam na chadhikam, that one should not neither chant too much nor chant too less. Why is it said that one should neither chant too much nor chant too less? The reason is because if one chants too less, then one will not be able to progress in their bhajan or in their bhakti. If one chants too much, then one may lose the respect that one has for Harinam. Often it is seen that certain individuals chant too much for some time and then give up their chanting altogether. So instead of chanting irregularly like this, the Goswamis have recommended Sankhya Purvaka Naam. Sankhya Purvaka Naam means chanting according to a fixed number. Or that is what I said to Jai Jagannath Prabhu, Sankalpa, taking a vow that I will chant this much. So after chanting the prescribed number of rounds, which we have taken a vow, then after that, if one wants, definitely one can chant extra, if one, as long as favorability towards Krishna is maintained. This most important thing. We can chant, we can perform seva, we can do anything to the extent that favorability towards Krishna is maintained. As soon as favorability towards Krishna is lost, then the purpose of everything is lost. Somebody who is engaging in excess chanting, and that excess chanting is making them pratikul or unfavorable towards Krishna, then it is better to chant limited number of rounds while remaining favorable towards Krishna. Very important principle, because the most important principle is Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. The best type of bhakti is to always remain favorably engaged in Krishna's service. So that is very much important. Moreover, as far as specifically chanting is concerned, I have said that there is a verse in the Hari Bhakti Vilas which very clearly says na nyunam na chadhikam, that one should chant neither too much nor too less, because if one chants too less, then there is very less or no spiritual benefit. One chants too much, then there is the risk of neglecting the quality hearing of the holy name. So similarly, whatever limits are given to us by the Guru, those limits should be understood. Similarly, there is a limit also on seva. Believe it or not, there is a limit also on seva. What is the limit on seva? Somebody may say one should engage in unlimited seva as far as possible. So then Srila Jiva Goswami has given a caution in the Bhakti Sandarbha. What caution? He says, Shri Gurvagyaya tat sevana virodhena chanyesham api vaishnavanam sevanam shreyah anyatha doshah syat. So I will very quickly pull out this section of the Bhakti Sandarbha where it says that Shri Gurvagyaya tat sevana virodhena chanyesham api vaishnavanam sevanam shreyah anyatha doshah syat. So I am sharing my screen with you, and you can see what Srila Jiva Goswami says. These are his direct words. So I will zoom the screen a little bit so that we can all see what Jiva Goswami says. This is Anucheda 238 of Bhakti Sandarbha. In the words of Jiva Goswami, why am I quoting the words of the Acharyas? So that it's not my opinion. It's the direct words of the previous acharyas. Jiva Goswami says, Shri Guru Agyaya, by the order of the Guru. Tat sevana avirodhena. Any service which does not conflict with the Guru's service. Cha anyesham api Vaishnavanam sevanam shreyah. Then you can serve other Vaishnavas unlimitedly, as long as it doesn't conflict with the service of the Guru. Anyatha, one who does otherwise, doshah syat, ends up with a fault. So these are the direct words of the acharyas which have been told to us, and we should understand them directly from the acharyas. There are some limits placed by the acharyas, those limits should be understood, and those limits should be set by the Guru by seeing the nature of the disciple. Otherwise, if one is like Haridas Thakur, Srila Haridas Thakur, one is constantly more and more attracted to Harinam by chanting more and more, then you can continue as long as you want. But as far as I see, most devotees need some practical limits to the various sevas that they are performing. That is what is my humble understanding in this regard. I hope it is satisfactory.
Hare Krishna, I apologize. May I ask a quick follow-up? That was really wonderful. Thank you so much, Hari Prasad Prabhu. But I guess I'm trying to also understand was if there was a reason why you had specifically called out Bali Maharaj in, I don't want to say a more negative context with this excess, because ultimately you had also mentioned at the very end that, Bali Maharaj is still remembered today. He represents the 9th anga of surrender, and even calling him out as as an extremely pious person in his past lives, willing to give everything. And so in that sense, we can't see what he's done in a negative light of calling it excess, even though to say the detriments of the other asuras and demons, but truly what he gave was everything to the Supreme Lord. So how can we see anything that he has done in a negative context? Thank you.
Yes. So that verse was presented as a sort of a Purva Paksh, as a sort of an argument which is defeated by subsequent argument. So the initial verse was like an argument against charity, and the subsequent slides were arguments which disprove that argument. So that is how discussions in Vedic literature take place. We first provide an argument from the opposite point of view. So the family members of Bali Maharaj were certainly not happy. It seems most likely that they have composed this verse, that ati danat balir baddho, because of excess charity our Bali Maharaj has been bound. But that is the Purva Paksha, or that is the what we call as a priori argument in logic. I don't know if that it's not so commonly used term. And then comes the subsequent arguments which disprove that argument. So that is what the first argument is which is given by the first opponent is known as Purva Paksha, and then the other Uttar Paksha, it refutes that argument. So that is what it was used as. It was not used as a slide which gives some siddhanta or some conclusion. It was used as a slide which gives a point of view which should be disproved. That was the purpose of that slide. So I hope that is clear.
Yes, thank you so much. It's very clear.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. There are also a few other questions in the chat box. How is your time? Like you have some
Yeah,
more time
I have all the time, no problem. I'm here for the devotees, so I have all the time, no problem. As long as you are okay, the devotees are okay. One thing I want to say, anyone has any seva, if they have to go to work or something, please free to log off. But if as long as Gaur Sharan Prabhu is okay, we can continue. That's all. So I'm your wish is my command, Prabhu.
Thank you. Here in the chat box, there's another question. Some of these you had already answered, but since specifically they want to know some more about those topics, is there a word for charity in altruism without expectation for piety or good karma?
See, there is a type of dan without expectation that is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. That is called as taddanam satvik dan. So charity without expectations is categorized as Satvika Dan or Dana in the mode of goodness. But we can never say that there is Dana without the expectation of the results. If that will no longer be categorized specifically as Dana, then without expectation of results means if somebody, that is only possible if somebody gives the results to the Supreme Lord, because somebody has to get the results. Somebody has to get that is compulsory. So the karma should have some phala, some result. So the best thing we can do is we can give the result to the Supreme Lord. Then the technical term for that is karma yoga. Then it becomes known as karma yoga, because any activity, the result of which we dedicate to the Supreme Lord, becomes known as karma yoga. And when it is done in bhakti, it becomes known as arop siddha bhakti. So when by devotee, when it is done with a devotional mood, it is known as arop siddha bhakti. So that is what it is.
That's an amazing answer, bro. I really appreciate it. Every statement of yours, we just have to like soak it in, and then have. There's so much. I'm really so happy that you're speaking on this topic. Mother Brajrani has another question. Is there a specific way that we understand those who are deserving of dana?
Is there a specific way that we understand of those who are deserving of dana? Yes. Therefore, I quoted Satkriya Sar Deepika. Satkriya Sar Deepika says very clearly, the first is Mahabhagavat. If we see a great devotee of the Lord, a great devotee of the Lord can appear on any part of the world. A pure devotee of the Lord can appear in any part of the world. That person is the first person who is eligible for receiving dana or seva or anything. But then if you want to ask from a Vedic hierarchy point of view, then also Satkriya Sarthipika said Brahmanadi, that beginning with the Brahmanas one should give. Why? Because only because of the Brahmanas the Varnashram system stays intact. If the Brahmanas are not there, then there will be no Varnashram system. So the first person to give charity in the Varnashram system is the Brahmana. The person who is engaging in Pathan Vedic studies, yagya, that person should be given priority in giving dana. And then all other living entities should also be given dana, because we cannot give money to the animals and birds, so they should be given anna, jala, fruits, foodstuffs, grains, water, everything. Yeah? So that is the sequence. The first is try to find a Mahabhagavat devotee. That is the most ideal person to give dan to. That is what is recommended.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is a question related to the Devatas. Like in chapter 3, Krishna says that, by performing yajna to the gods, this cosmological order is maintained. Then chapter 9, Krishna says that, those who are less intelligent worship the demigods, whose intelligence has been stolen, lusty desires worship the demigods.
Right.
So like connecting to this, Krishna is pleased when we give charity to even other living entities. So in a similar way, for householders, how do I reconcile the two statements? Will Krishna be pleased if we also at least recognize the demigods and give something for them?
Right.
Instead of, is that equating, is that same as worshipping them?
Oh, very nice question. So this is such a nice question that it said in the initial chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, that how the entire system of the universe is maintained by the various devatas, beginning from Brahma. Then it is said in the later chapters that one who worships other devatas is actually worshipping me only, but he is doing so avidhi purvakam. That is the term used by Krishna. He is doing without, in a non bona fide way. So how do we reconcile these two things? So there are three ways of reconciling these things. First way, one is some people take only one side. Some people take the side only of the devatas. They say we will satisfy all the devatas because we will not engage in satisfying Krishna. Because frankly speaking, the devatas give results very fast. They give immediate results. So we will engage in satisfying the devatas because we don't want to wait. And Krishna is very whimsical in giving. So we don't want to wait that long. And Krishna sometimes gives, sometimes doesn't give, and it is up to his desire. And when we give to devatas, they have to give us because that's a universal system. So they have to give us something in return. So some people favor only the devatas. Now there are other categories of people who favor only giving to Krishna and not satisfying other living entities. Now, those people also, as I quoted Kapil Muni, they fall into the category of Bhinnadrik. Bhinnadrik means they are also having a sort of a differential outlook. That I am giving to Krishna, and in the practical day-to-day life, I am seeing people suffering and I am doing nothing to satisfy them. Or the various devatas also have expectations from me. Why do the devatas have expectations from me? They are running my bodily parts. Today I am able to raise my right hand, my left hand. Why? Because there is a certain deity who is in charge of those functions of the body. So if those deities become unhappy with me, I may suffer a paralysis. And then even if I want to raise my right hand, I may not be able to raise that because that particular deity is not cooperating with me. So some people satisfy only Krishna but forget to satisfy all other living entities. Now, ideal candidate in Srimad Bhagavatam, because ideally I should give an answer from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So ideal candidate, ideal example who will satisfy both of them is Bharat Maharaj. How is Bharat Maharaj an example of that? Because there is a specific paragraph in Srimad Bhagavatam. Not everything in the Srimad Bhagavatam is a verse, there are also paragraphs. So Srimad Bhagavatam 5.9.6, this is not a verse, this is a paragraph. So I cannot sing it, but I will, sorry, this is not 5.9.6, I'm sorry, it should be 5.7.6, yes. 5.7.6, yes. Let's read this. After performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharat offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. So Bharat Maharaj was performing various Vedic sacrifices, Indra, to Ashwini Kumars, to all the deities, Vedic deities. In other words, he performed all the yajnas for the satisfaction of Lord Vasudeva Krishna. Fair enough. But the yajnas are for various deities, various demigods. So what did Maharaj Bharat do? Maharaj Bharat thought that since those demigods were different parts of Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking in this way, Maharaj Bharat was freed from all material contamination such as attachment, lust and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients to the fire, Maharaj Bharat expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. Now, an example is given by Shukdev Goswami. He says, for instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when the priest would say, Om Indraya Swaha, Idam Indraya, Idam Namama. So this is for Indra. So Bharat Maharaj in his mind would say, yes, this is for Indra, who is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Surya. Om Suryaya Swaha, Idam Suryaya, Idam Namama. Then Maharaj Bharat was thinking this is for Surya, who is the eye of the Supreme Lord. Thus Maharaj Bharat considered that oblations offered to different demigods were actually offered unto the different limbs of Lord Vasudeva. So please note this 5.7.6, how even while satisfying the various devatas, Maharaj Bharat was actually satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he was considering all the devatas to be limbs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the way of satisfying. We see all living entities as part and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we are satisfying those living entities, okay, so we are giving an offering to someone who is a part of the Supreme Lord. So as soon as we give something to one who is a part of the Supreme Lord within the heart of that living entity notices. And then the Supreme Lord understands that this person has engaged in dhan. And then the Supreme Lord is pleased with us. So this is something which we should understand, that while we are satisfying other living entities, although it is not on the same level as direct satisfaction of Lord Vishnu, but it is in one way indirect satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. This is what we should understand.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the excellent answer.
Yashodhalal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, this is Shri Radhika. Please accept
Hare
my humble obeisances, Hari Parshad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. I have a question because we hear sometimes from lectures of one Vaishnavas about the different type of donations in mode of goodness, ignorance, and passion. And very often we get discouraged to give donation to poor and needy, and we've been told that we should not engage in such, social activities of feeding the tummies of poor people, because we also can get implemented in karma. Because when we give money, that's what we've been taught, that when we give money to them, they will go and buy the burger or liquor, and we will never will be able to satisfy their hunger. And we should do some spiritual activity. But for grihasas, it's not always practical to have prasad on hand to give it to them. Sometimes we see poor people in the street and we want to give them Lakshmi. And we are conflicted at heart. Are we doing this service? Or are we doing this service? Are we going to be implemented in karmic activities because they're how they're going to spend this money? So can you please clarify this and give us the proper
Okay.
answer?
Okay. So sometimes we are in a position as a grihastha that we are in a place where we may not be carrying prasadam with us, and we are in there is somebody who wants some charity from us. So we are in a conflicting situation whether we should give them something or we should not give them something. If we don't give them something, then we run the risk of being a person who is hard at heart. And if we give them something, then they may end up buying something from that money which is not favorable for their spiritual advancement. So what should we do? So between not giving and giving, it is always better to give. It is always a better principle to give. One thing one should understand, our karma is to give them charity, to give them dan. What they do with that is part of their karma. Now somebody may say, but you will get implicated in that. So I say to that, I will never get implicated in that. There is a reason why. Because as a devotee, I know how to get out of that implication. Somebody may say, how do you get out of that implication? Because the previous acharyas have saved me from that. How have the previous acharyas saved you from that? Because in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is something which Srila Gopal Bhatt Goswami has told us. What has he told us? So this is Srila Gopal Bhatt Goswami saying that Tribhir Mantrai Swakarmani Sarvani Atmam Apyatha. He said 3 times this mantra should be chanted and all of one's karmas, all of one's activity should be offered to the Supreme Lord. He said, which mantra? This is 8th chapter of Hari Bhakti Vilas. 410th is the mantra. You can note down the reference. Maybe later you can revisit the video and see this. This mantra is in the form of a paragraph. So I am chanting the mantra. Itah purvam prana buddhi dharmadhikarato jagrat swapna sushuptyavasthasu manasa vacha karmana hastabhyam padbhyam udarena shishna yat smritam yaduktam yatkritam tat sarvam Shri Krishnarpanam bhavatu swaha Mamadiyam cha sakalam haraye samarpayami ti om tat sat. So it says itaha purvam, before this point of time, every day thrice before sleeping we should chant itaha purvam, before this. Prana buddhi dharmadhikarato, by the power which has been given to me by my life air, by my intelligence, by dharma. Jagrat swapna sushupti avasthasu, in all states of existence, while sleeping, while waking up, while dreaming, in deep sleep. Manasa vacha karmana, through my mind, through my words, through my activities. Hastabhyam, through my 2 hands. Padbhyam, through my 2 feet. Udarena, through my belly. Shishna, through my genitals. Yat smritam, whatever I have remembered. Yad uktam, whatever I have spoken. Yat kritam, whatever I have done. Tat sarvam Shri Krishnarpanam bhavatu. May all of that be offered to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Swaha. By saying Swaha, everything is offered. Mam madiyam cha sakalam. Everything that is mine, belonging to me. Sakalam haraye samarpayami. I offer everything to Lord Hari. Thrice a day before sleeping, doctor's prescription. Srila Gopal Bhatt Goswami. Offer everything to the Lord and cleanse yourself of all the guilt that is there in your heart. But never stop giving to deserving people. But please remember, the most deserving people are the Mahabhagavata devotees, followed by the Brahmanas, and followed by other people. So if it is possible to give dravya or foodstuffs or substances to other people, then better to give that. If not possible, then give them money and offer all the karma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because no karma can affect him. So that is the answer to your question. I hope it is satisfactory.
It's very satisfactory. Thank you so much, Hariparsha Prabhu. So wonderful.
Hare Krishna. If anybody else has a closing question or a appreciation, you're welcome to unmute yourself.
Criticism. I am waiting for criticism. I am not satisfied unless there is some good criticism. Then I will be happy, because the genuine well wishers are.
You
Yes.
spoke too little.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. That's good criticism.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I don't even know how to ask the question because I'm so fuzzy on this point of just giving everything to Krishna, no matter what we do, because that concept becomes a little ambiguous for me, as giving Krishna food to eat, that is easily understood. Giving Krishna, things that we normally think of giving to Krishna, but let's take that example of giving to somebody on the street. We don't know what they're going to do with it. And I'm giving that to Krishna. I don't know how to process that concept of giving it to this needy person, yet how to understand that in my mind, that I'm giving that to Krishna.
Yeah. There are two things that we give to Krishna. One is the act and another is the fruit of the act. One is the karma and one is the phala. Both things are given to Krishna. So sometimes we are thinking that we should only give the fruits of the karma to Krishna. Sometimes we think we should only give the act itself. But we should not only give the act to Krishna, we should not only dedicate the act to Krishna, but we should also dedicate the result of that act to Krishna. So the act of giving money to a poor person should be dedicated to Krishna. And whatever is the result of that act, the poor person may do anything with it, that also is dedicated to Krishna. So whatever is being done, the act as well as the result, that both of them are dedicated to Krishna. And that is how I move out of the entire picture. That is the answer to your query.
Okay, well, that answer, I think, helps clarify what I am fuzzy about.
Yes.
Because, when we say I give the act of giving to the needy person to Krishna, again, it's like I can understand giving Krishna an apple,
Right,
but not so much giving him an act. And also, if the person does go out and buy liquor with the money, how should I feel comfortable? I mean, how do I say that I'm giving that to Krishna?
So if we are sure that a certain person is going to buy liquor from it, we are 100% sure that we know this beggar is there every day this beggar does nothing but buys liquor with that money. So we can make a policy for that beggar that either we buy some foodstuffs for that, because he's a regular beggar, so we don't have to give them every day, but whenever we give to that beggar, we buy some foodstuffs and give to that beggar. If we know that they are definitely going to engage in something wrong, then better to give them some foodstuffs instead of giving them money. But if we don't know, if the beggar is first time we are seeing that beggar, we don't know what they are going to do with it, then it is better to give the charity and then offer the act as well as the fruit to Krishna. So that is the answer to your query.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Prabhu, but my question still remains. If the person, let's say he does do something beneficial with the money, how is that an offering to Krishna? He's not, because the person, he doesn't have any, he does not have God in his mind when he's buying whatever he's buying.
Right.
So how is that an offering to Krishna?
No, we are not offering that to Krishna. See, when I gave charity to that person, so that person ended up buying some liquor out of it. Now that person will get his reaction for buying liquor. But if a part of that reaction is coming to me, then that result also I am offering to Krishna, whatever is coming to me. So because I can only offer that which is within my domain, not within the domain of that beggar. So whatever is within my domain, the karma as well as the phala, that I am offering. Doesn't mean that the beggar will be cleared of his karma, because I cannot offer on somebody else's behalf. I can offer, all the prayers are on my behalf. So that is what I am eligible to do. I am eligible to offer my karma and my phala, my result, to Krishna. So if there is any part of the result which will accrue to me, then that is what I can offer to Krishna. And if there is any part of the karma which I will accrue, then I can offer that to Krishna. And rest, that is up to that beggar and his relationship with the Supreme Lord, which I cannot be judgmental about. So that is the answer to
well, if the karma that I have coming to me as a result of what I did for that beggar is some kind of, thing that I would experience as something negative,
right,
then it doesn't seem like it's so nice, such a nice offering to offer Krishna something
it's
negative.
It's not nice, but it is needed to offer everything to Krishna. It is needed that we should offer everything to. We should get this concept out of our mind that only the good things we will offer, and the negative things I will keep it hidden away from Krishna under the rug. I will hide it somewhere under the rug. They are not going to remain hidden under the rug. Something has to be done about it. What has to be done about it is, we feel Jiva Goswami deals with it in the Bhakti Sandarbha. He says that if devotee has offered something negative to Krishna, devotee feels a little guilt about it, but doesn't stop the act of offering to Krishna. So that definitely everything should be offered to Krishna. Krishna himself has said in the Bhagavad Gita, Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice and charity, dadasiyat, especially said about charity, yat tapasyasi, whatever austerities you do, tat kurushva madarpanam, offer everything to me. And don't worry, and Krishna said to Arjuna in the end that ma shucha aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. Don't worry about all the sinful reactions and negative reactions, because I am here to protect you from that, simply because you have surrendered completely. That is the answer to your query. So please do not worry about it, because you have been offering so many nice things. Krishna can definitely understand that your complete offering may have some negativities in it, but Krishna is willing to accept you in your entirety, along with all the negativities that you offered to Krishna.
But I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry to ask one more question. Like if I am eating meat, right? and I hear this class,
Hmm.
Because we always hear, okay, not everything is offerable, That's why there's that verse in the Gita that says, only, fruit, flour, water. So, but after hearing you now, I would be confused. Okay, if I'm eating meat, do I offer it or not?
So if you are a devotee, definitely you will not engage in eating meat, because you know the principles of devotional service, that eating meat is something which cannot be offered to Krishna. But let's say somebody is an absolute newcomer and they are eating meat or they are drinking liquor. Then Srila Prabhupada had one thing to suggest to them, and this is in his teachings of Queen Kunti. So I am reading, you can see is directly, I am reading Prabhupada's words. It is not difficult to remember Krishna. Here Kunti Devi describes Krishna with reference to lotus flowers. Similarly, when Krishna describes himself in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of liquids. So Prabhupada is saying, so one can remember Krishna by tasting water. Even if one is drinking liquor, if he thinks the taste of this drink is Krishna, he will one day turn out to be a great saintly person. So I can request even drunkards to become Krishna conscious. What to speak of others? Because Krishna says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of liquids. So this is directly, these are not my words. I would be very afraid to make such words, but Prabhupada can go ahead and say that. But but this is something which one should understand, that a newcomer, no matter how they bring Krishna into their lives, that is immaterial. Once Krishna comes into their lives, then they will definitely change. But Krishna can be induced in their life at any point of time, even as they are eating meat. No problem at all. But once they become a devotee, they have a higher alternative, and they should definitely select the higher alternative to offer to Krishna. They should not always remain at the lowest common denominator of the human society, because more is expected from a devotee, because they have been given transcendental knowledge which the other person does not have. So if a person does not have knowledge of Krishna bhakti, and they are simply told, while drinking liquor, think of Krishna, while eating meat, think of Krishna. So a person without knowledge of Krishna bhakti can definitely do that, as Prabhupada suggests, but slowly they will become a good devotee, and when they have knowledge of Krishna bhakti, then they should offer only what is offerable to Krishna. So that is the answer to your query.
Okay, so basically, offer everything to Krishna is a bit conditional, depending upon
offer everything to Krishna. Offer everything to Krishna according to your capacity. That is what it is. That is the condition.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hari Parshad Prabhu. I can only I have so many things to say, but surely you have my utmost respect, love. I can't say anything much. It's so amazing how a person with clarity and Krishna consciousness can be such a strength to the whole community. So we are very, very grateful for your association, and we hope and pray that we can have your association in the future also. So
I feel strong when Jai Jagannath Prabhu is there, because I know there's some Shastric person who can correct me and who can validate what I have to say. Then I feel stronger. That is my source of strength. Are devotees like Jai Jagannath Prabhu.
You are a good comedian also.
Thank you. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Jai Jagannath Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for staying so long. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hari Parshad Prabhu. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hari Parshad Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
So I'll log off, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare.